You're not exhausted. You're lacking discipline. That's the harsh reality most people are too afraid to face. You keep feeding yourself excuses, calling it burnout, blaming stress, acting like your situation is unique. But deep down, you already know what it is. It's weakness. You have the energy to scroll for hours, to binge watch mindless content, to dream about success. But the moment it's time to build something real, to act, to climb, suddenly you've got nothing left. Why? Because you're hooked on motivation like an addict chasing his next fix. And when that high doesn't hit, you collapse. You walk away. You vanish. But let me give you something real. Winners don't sit around waiting to feel ready. They push through the mud, through the fear, through the uncertainty. I don't rely on motivation. I live by discipline. That's the difference. That's what separates the warriors from the weak, the alphas from the herd. You keep praying for some magical drive, but what you really need is structure. Because when every fiber in you screams, stop, discipline says, go, and drags you forward anyway. That's how legends are built. Not by chasing what feels good, but by doing what's necessary, especially when it feels impossible. The temporary pleasure of quitting is nothing compared to the lifelong misery of never becoming who you could have been. And believe me, being a nobody doesn't hurt all at once. It's a slow decay, a quiet death. It's a life where your dreams end up buried beside you, suffocated by excuses. Discipline is the root of real freedom. And without it, you're a slave to your feelings, to your moods, to your laziness. You either stand up now or stay on the ground forever. Because here's the cold truth. You will never amount to anything until you work even when you don't want to. Nobody's going to rescue you. No one's handing you your dream. Success comes from discipline, consistency, and sacrifice. The people who train every single day, they don't always want to. They're not led by emotion. They're forged by decision. So ask yourself, are you willing to bleed for your name? Or will you waste another day while the life you crave mocks you from a distance? Decide, right now, because every second you hesitate, there's a man out there sharpening his blade while you're still staring at yours. Most of you will never rise, not because you're not smart, not because you're poor, not because the game is rigged, but because you keep feeding yourself lies to justify staying the same. The truth is far more brutal. You're addicted to inspiration like a junkie needing his next hit. You sit there waiting for lightning to strike, for some magical rush to carry you into greatness. But it doesn't work that way. The universe doesn't reward the idle. It rewards the builders, the ones who show up Monday morning, ready to go to war with their own comfort. The ones who rise at 5 a.m., not out of desire, but out of duty, because they've chosen a purpose greater than themselves. And that's what you refuse to accept. Discipline is the key to freedom. Motivation is the road to chains. Do what you feel is the motto of the weak, the broke, the forgotten. Do what must be done. That's the code of kings. You think high achievers feel like showing up daily? You think elite minds stay inspired 24/7? Absolutely not. There are days their bodies ache, their minds are cloudy, and the world feels like it's crushing them. But they move anyway. They move through discomfort, through boredom, through fear, because their mission is non-negotiable. They don't need a motivational quote. They built a life around discipline. That's what makes them lethal. That's what makes them unstoppable. While you scroll through your phone searching for another hype video, the disciplined man is stacking his empire, brick by brick, hour by hour, silently, with no applause. And that's why he wins. You say you want to be a lion, but you act like a sheep. You cry for freedom, but you run from the routines that create it. You've got it twisted. Discipline isn't your enemy, it's your freedom. Every icon you admire, every champion, every soldier, every titan in business or battle, didn't rise because of short bursts of energy. They rose through unrelenting repetition. by doing the hard things on the hardest days. Discipline means doing what you despise like it's something you love. That's what separates dreamers from those who do. Stop hunting motivation. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. The stars aren't aligning. No angels are coming. No savior is on the way. You are it. You're the only one who can wear the armor of discipline and walk into the fire. Not once, not twice, every single day. Because the moment you start depending on feelings, you lose control. But the second you submit to discipline, you seize the power to design your own reality. And that's when the universe finally leans in your favor. Not before. Never before. I've had days where I felt completely dead inside. Days where my fuel tank was bone dry. But I still trained. I still worked. I still kept moving forward. Because that's what warriors do. You don't earn your place when things feel easy. You earn it when your entire body begs you to quit, and you don't. That's where true self-respect is forged. That's how you become the man who can't be broken. And don't confuse this with self-abuse. This isn't about punishing yourself. It's about becoming aligned. Because when you master yourself day in, day out, you start to move in tune with something greater than pride or ego. You move in sync with purpose, with destiny, with legacy. And that's when life begins to open doors you never even knew were there. So burn the lie that motivation is your savior. It's not. Motivation is fickle. And emotions? They crumble under pressure. But discipline is your weapon and your armor. It slices through excuses. And it shields you from surrender. You're not exhausted. You're lacking discipline. That's the harsh truth most people won't admit. You keep deceiving yourself, blaming burnout, blaming stress, pointing fingers at your environment. But deep down, you know it's not that. It's weakness. You have the stamina to scroll endlessly on your phone, binge watch meaningless content, daydream about success. But when it's time to build, to move forward, to rise, you're suddenly drained. Why? Because you treat motivation like a drug and you're the addict. And the second it doesn't show up, you vanish, you collapse, you quit. But here's the cold truth. Winners don't wait until they're in the mood. They fight through the sludge. They walk through the dark. They carry on despite the doubt. I don't rely on motivation. I depend on discipline. That's the game changer. That's the dividing line between the immature and the evolved, between predators and prey. You keep begging for passion. But what you really need is structure. Because when every cell inside you says no, discipline is the voice that screams yes and pushes you through. That's how greatness is born. Not from feeling inspired, but from doing what needs to be done, especially when it feels unbearable. The short-lived satisfaction of giving up is nothing compared to the slow, lifelong agony of mediocrity. And don't get it twisted. Being a nobody doesn't hit you all at once. It rots you quietly. It buries your dreams under regret. Discipline is the root of your freedom. If you lack it, you are a puppet to your mood, to your whims, to your laziness. You either rise now or you stay shackled forever. Because this is the truth. You'll never amount to anything until you're willing to work when you absolutely don't want to. Nobody is coming to lift you up. No one is handing out success. It belongs to the ones who sacrifice, who stay committed, who stay sharp. People who train every day, they don't want to train every day. They're not driven by fleeting emotion. They're carved from decisive will. So ask yourself, will you suffer for your name, or let another day pass while your dream mocks you from a distance? Make a choice, because while you hesitate, another man out there is sharpening his blade, and you're still staring at the handle. Most of you will fail, not because you're stupid, not because you're broke, not because the system is broken. Those are bedtime stories you tell yourself to sleep peacefully. The truth is colder. You're hooked on motivation like a fiend. You sit idle, waiting for some divine lightning bolts to energize you into action. But greatness doesn't come from feeling ready. The universe doesn't reward the idle. It rewards the doer, the man who faces his comfort like an enemy, the man who rises at 5 a.m., not because it feels good, but because he has a mission that outweighs his comfort. And here's where most of you fail. You think discipline is your prison, but it's your path to freedom. Do what you feel is the anthem of the forgotten. Do what must be done. That's the law of kings. You believe the strongest show up every day because they want to? You think warriors, CEOs, champions are fired up every morning? No, their bodies hurt. Their minds are cloudy. The world presses down like a weight, but they move anyway. They move despite the pain, the doubt, the fatigue, because their vision is non-negotiable. They don't need a motivational video. Their life is built around discipline. That's what makes them unstoppable. While you scroll looking for a spark, they're laying bricks. Quietly, without applause. That's why they win. You crave to be a lion, but live like a sheep. You long for freedom, but reject the chains that make it possible. You've got it twisted. Discipline isn't your enemy, it's your release. The truth is, every man you admire, every warrior, every athlete, every business titan, didn't make it through excitement. They made it through consistency, through repetition, through doing the hard things when they least wanted to. Discipline is doing what you loathe, as if it's what you love. That's the difference between dreamers and doers. Stop chasing motivation. Stop waiting for the stars to align. No one's coming. No choir of angels is about to sing. You have to become your own hero. Wear your armor of discipline and walk into the flames every day, because the moment you lean on feelings, you give up control. But when you fully surrender to discipline, you become the creator of your own world. And that's when the universe starts bending in your favor. Not before. There were days I felt dead inside. Days I had nothing in the tank. But I trained. I worked. I moved forward anyway. That's what warriors do. You don't earn your worth when you feel good. You earn it when your whole body wants to quit, and you don't let it. That's where self-respect is born. That's how you forge a man who can't be broken. And don't confuse this with punishment. This isn't suffering for the sake of suffering. It's alignment. Because when you live through discipline, when you master yourself day after day, you start syncing with something greater than your own ego. You start aligning with purpose, with divine order. And that's when doors begin to open, doors you never even saw before. So destroy the idea that motivation is your answer. It's not. Motivation is emotion, and emotions crumble under weight. But discipline? Discipline is your sword and your shield. It slices through laziness and guards you against your worst impulses. It's your protection in a world designed to soften you. Every time you ignore the alarm clock, every workout you skip, every "I'll do it tomorrow," you're handing over your crown for comfort. And worst of all, you know it. You feel the shame, that gnawing voice whispering, you were meant for more. And it's right. But you'll never meet that higher self until you slaughter the weak part of you that waits for motivation to rescue you, because it never will. Only discipline can. And once you accept that, not in your mind, but in your bones, that's when you become dangerous. That's when your presence changes the atmosphere. That's when your life shifts forever. There was a time when my life felt pointless. Sure, I had money, cars, status, women, watches. But I was empty. Not the kind of empty you fix with shopping or vacations. A spiritual hole, a war within. Each morning I woke up, and something inside felt wrong. I didn't realize at first, but I'd become hooked on the feeling of success, not the process that created it. I chased the applause, the dopamine, the validation. And when they faded, I slowed. I coasted until it struck me. I was living like a mortal, like a man who needed to feel good to do good. That's how legacies die. Not in a bang, but in small decisions, missed sessions, skipped routines, tiny compromises that rot your discipline from the inside. I remember a morning in Romania, dark, freezing. You could see your breath indoors. 2 hours of sleep. My body hurt. My brain was fog. Motivation? Dead. I wanted to stay in bed, cancel everything. But I got up, put my boots on, stepped into the cold, and trained like it was my final day on earth. Not from passion, but from discipline. Because I knew when your feelings betray you, discipline is your last ally. That day, that choice, created a ripple. Because discipline is soul interest that compounds. Each time you act when you don't want to, each promise you honor in silence, you stack bricks. You sharpen your soul until it becomes steel. People glamorize motivation because it's exciting. But life isn't a highlight reel. Life is quiet failure, lonely mornings, silent grind. Discipline is choosing your mission over your mood. That's how you rise. That's how you become a storm. What changed my life? Not a viral moment, not a victory. It was getting up every single day for years, doing the necessary, no matter what. That's the secret no one wants. Because it's not shiny. It's not seductive. Discipline makes miracles look effortless. People see the outcome and call it talent, but they never see the war behind it. The lonely nights, the silent tears, the unseen sacrifices. I knew a man once, brilliant, powerful, naturally gifted, more talent than me, but he was a slave to emotion. When he felt good, he dominated. When he didn't, he vanished. Eventually, life crushed him, not because he lacked ability, but because he lacked an anchor. No discipline, just a kite in a storm. I loved him, but I couldn't save him. No one could, because no one can build your discipline for you. That battle is yours, between you and your reflection, between you and your creator. And that's why motivation is a lie. It's a flicker. Discipline is the eternal flame. You want to be powerful? Then forge yourself. In silence. Especially when no one is clapping. I had nights staring at the ceiling, wondering if any of it mattered. The pain, the isolation, the grind. And in those moments, I learned what most never will. Discipline is sacred. It connects you to something beyond your flesh. When you master it, you rise above instinct and align with divine purpose. That's when you stop being a man and become a vessel. Each disciplined step is rebellion against a world that wants to distract and consume you. Each time you act while your body begs for rest, you reclaim your soul. And here's what they never tell you. Once you embrace discipline, life stops feeling heavy. It becomes focused, sharp, clear. You stop needing hype. You stop begging for motivation. You execute. You do. And in that doing, you become free. You fall in love with consistency, with progress, not chaos, not comfort. That's when your life begins to shift. Not because the world got easier, but because you got harder, sharper, unbreakable. A man ruled by purpose, not by feelings. And that's when your legacy begins. Not when they cheer, not when you post, but when you live it. Quietly, daily, relentlessly. Driven by one thing, discipline. Because every day you waste chasing motivation is a day you can never reclaim. People talk like time is unlimited, like they've got decades. You don't. You're not guaranteed next week, or tomorrow, or the next minute. And while you scroll for that spark, someone else is already rising. In silence, in the dark, putting in the reps, becoming a weapon. True discipline means doing the work even when it's dull, painful, and feels meaningless, because deep down, you know the person you're becoming is worth every ounce of discomfort. That's the dividing line between those who ascend and those who decay. Winners don't wait around for inspiration. They take action over and over, relentlessly. And if you don't build that same relentless mentality, you'll get left behind, soft, fragile, and filled with regret. No one warns you how costly laziness truly is, not just in finances, though that too, but in dignity, in missed greatness, in that gnawing realization that you were made for more and still chose ease. That's the toll you pay for depending on motivation, because motivation is fickle. It drops in when it wants and vanishes when you need it most. You don't bargain with your destiny. You show up or you lose. That's the contract. And time's moving with or without you. Men deceive themselves with stories. They swear they'll begin tomorrow. They wait to feel better, to feel ready, to feel settled. But here's the brutal truth. You're dying every moment you delay. Life races past while you search for the right feeling. You think the world is patiently waiting for your spark? It's not. Somewhere out there, someone colder, hungrier, more locked in, is grinding right now to claim what you say you want. This journey isn't just about muscle or money. It's spiritual warfare. Every day you refuse discipline, you're surrendering to weakness. You're saying, my emotions matter more than my purpose. And that belief, it's lethal. Weakness doesn't arrive in a crash. It sneaks in disguised as comfort, as taking it easy, as peace. And by the time you see what it's done, your fire's already fading. That's why you have to act, not later, now, even in silence, especially in silence. Fear isn't your enemy if used right. Fear can drive you, but not fear of struggle. No, be afraid of living beneath your capability. Be terrified of looking in the mirror and seeing mediocrity staring back. A man rooted in discipline is dangerous because he's owned by nothing, not by emotion, not by history, not by weakness. That's who you must become. Not another soft-hearted drifter chasing feelings, but a weapon of purpose so dialed in that even his worst days create results. In reality, the man who works while uninspired always wins. While you chase a mood, he's building, sweating, bleeding, and pulling ahead. Don't confuse this with mechanical repetition. Discipline isn't cold or lifeless, it's sacred. It's alignment with your highest self. It brings order to your chaos. It gives you peace. It breaks the current of distraction and teaches you to walk above the noise. This is how you win the war between the lower you and the higher you. You think lifting weights is physical? It's a sacred battleground where your soul learns to rise. You think waking early is for productivity? No, it's defiance against the coward inside. You don't train for aesthetics. You train to honor the man you're becoming. You don't hustle for applause. You grind to redeem the version of you that once gave up. And yes, this path will demand everything. It will stretch you beyond what you think you have. It will break you and remake you. But the other path? That's worse. The alternative is waking up in a future you hate, with soft hands, a weak body, and a broken heart, wondering how it all slipped by. Motivation might give you a spark once. Only discipline keeps the flame alive. So when hardship shows up, lean into it. When fear knocks, smirk back. When the fire dims, reignite it. Because you're not here to feel good. You're here to build something worth waking up to. Why is discipline more important than motivation? Because motivation is based on emotion, and emotion lies. It tells you to sleep when you should rise. It whispers comfort when you need the storm. But discipline speaks truth. It tells you to move regardless, when you're weary, when you're lost, when you're hurting. It doesn't care about reasons. It respects only action. That's why discipline is the most lethal weapon a man can have. That's why it leads to greatness. That's why a man who owns it becomes untouchable, not just physically, but spiritually. He becomes a force, a legend, a storm. You don't need more hype. You don't need more motivation. What you need is silence and action. Less talk, fewer plans, no daydreams, just execution. Every time you pause, waiting for inspiration, you surrender ground to a version of yourself that could have existed. Motivation lies. Discipline stays. This is why the few rise, because they've stopped letting their emotions control their output. Most men are enslaved, not by systems, not by governments, but by their own minds. Shackled to comfort, chained to distractions, ruled by a belief that they must feel ready to act. You're not meant to wait. You're meant to move. Greatness is forged when no one's watching, when no one claps, when no one cares. That's where kings are made, not in applause, but in consistency, in struggle, in pain embraced rather than avoided. You want power? Then earn it. You want respect? Build it. You want success? Bleed for it. Nothing you desire will come simply because you hope for it. That's not how the universe operates. The world doesn't reward the emotional. It rewards the relentless. Your feelings are irrelevant. Your excuses carry no weight. You either execute or you decay. That's the harsh truth. But once you accept it, it frees you. Because when you stop waiting for the perfect condition, you realize you control everything. This game is about mastering yourself. You want to win? Then dominate your desires. Crush your hesitation. Act with violence, even when your body begs for stillness. A disciplined man is unstoppable. He doesn't peak once, he peaks daily. That's the kind of fire no motivation can match. Motivation is temporary. Discipline, fused with purpose, is eternal. That's what leaves a legacy. That's the kind of force that bends the world, rather than being bent by it. Don't confuse struggle with failure. The grind is the way. You're not meant to float through life. The pain is the down payment. Every silent rep, every pre-dawn wake-up, every workout alone. That's not just effort. It's sacred. It's sharpening your spirit. Discipline connects your pain now to your greatness later. That's why the soft fade. That's why the undisciplined vanish. They think pain means they're doing something wrong. But those with discipline, they know pain is a sign, a prophecy. The pressure isn't punishment, it's preparation. You're not broken. You're just untested. You're not lost. You're just undisciplined. And the cure? It's in doing the hard things. Rise early. Train while tired. Build while bored. Speak truth when it's easier to lie. That's where strength is carved. Discipline doesn't offer shortcuts. It makes you razor sharp, sharp enough to cut through all the noise. And when you've honed that edge, you don't need outside motivation. You are the motivation. You become the flame others try to borrow. And never let your past define your future. Your history is not a life sentence unless you let it be. You've failed before? Good. You've quit before? So what? Let it burn. What matters now is what you do with this breath, this moment. Discipline is redemption through movement. You don't need apologies, you need action. You don't need excuses, you need fire. You need order. You need to reconstruct yourself into something so powerful, your old self wouldn't recognize you. You weren't born to coast. You weren't built to waste your youth or decay in mediocrity. You were made to rise, to breathe fire, to fight when it's quiet, to find depth in repetition, to keep grinding when no one applauds. That's how you earn real power. Motivation may light the match, but only discipline keeps it alive through the storm. And make no mistake, the storm is coming. Life will test you through failure, through heartbreak, through exhaustion. And when it does, the question won't be, do you feel inspired? The question will be, do you still move? That's when greatness is born. So rise, breathe deep, and remember who you're meant to become. Stop waiting to feel good. Start moving like a man possessed, not by anger, but by purpose, not by desperation, but by sacred fire. Because discipline isn't just about the results, it's about who you become when no one sees. Discipline is the language of warriors, the pulse of the elite, the rhythm of immortality. If you want a life few will ever taste, you must do what few are willing to endure. And that starts with one raw, powerful truth: discipline over motivation. Every single time, there comes a moment when you stop listening and start doing, not because of hype, not because of adrenaline, but because you're done being the weaker version of yourself. If you've made it this far, then something inside of you is waking up. Not your emotions, but your core, your masculine essence, your soul. Discipline is when the soul commands the flesh and says, move, move. No asking, no pausing, just war against that version of yourself that always chooses comfort. This is the breaking point right now, not later, not when things feel easier, not when the chaos quiets down. That moment you keep waiting for, it doesn't exist. That illusion is the mind's trap, a clever lie to keep you stuck. The honest truth? The difficult path is the only one that leads forward. Your future isn't sitting around waiting for some spark of motivation. It's waiting for you to step into pain with intention. And every second you stall, your inner flame grows colder. And believe this, when that flame goes out, you're no longer alive. You're just floating, trapped in a repeating loop of guilt, regret, and empty explanations. You've absorbed enough. You've studied enough. You've envisioned enough. It's time to build. Build even when no one claps. Build when your hands are trembling. Build when every muscle begs for rest. Discipline is choosing movement when doubt surrounds you. It's taking action when fear is loud. It's staying steady when the world is in chaos. The moment you make a decision that your emotions won't dictate your direction anymore, you become untouchable. Because discipline isn't just a trait, it's a storm. Motivation is lightning, brief, brilliant, and gone in an instant. But discipline? Discipline is the sun. It rises without fail, lighting everything it touches. Ask yourself, how many days have you let go by waiting for the right feeling? How many hours did you waste because the vibe felt off, the energy wasn't right, or the moment lacked magic? That mindset? It's a spiritual death sentence. You murder your own potential every time you wait to feel ready. You were never created to be ruled by fleeting emotions. You were born to transcend them, to shape your world through persistent effort. That's not just self-control. That's sacred masculine energy in motion. It's what divides those who fight from those who simply watch. Your mission is clear, but far from easy. Destroy the part of yourself that hesitates. Silence the voice that whispers, not today. You don't need a fresh calendar. You don't need a Monday. You need this moment. Get up. Lock in. Refuse to stop. If your body screams, go anyway. If your thoughts resist, ignore them. If your surroundings distract, create stillness inside. Because real power doesn't live in ease. It thrives in confrontation. Discipline is the silent vow you make to yourself when no one is looking, when no one believes in you, when every cell in your body begs you to surrender. You want to transform your life? Then act like it. Don't talk about your dreams, outwalk them. Don't post about hustle, be the hustle. Don't preach growth, bleed for it. The world is full of people who roar like lions but walk like sheep. Don't be one of them. Be the thunder. Be the rhythm. Be the man who shows up with no audience and leaves a trail of impact. And when people wonder how you made it won't be genetics. It won't be chance. It won't be destiny. It'll be one word: discipline. And to those who believe discipline is cold, mechanical, or dead inside, they've misunderstood it entirely. Discipline isn't the absence of soul. It's the full release of it. It's what gives your higher nature the room to emerge through the noise. It provides structure to chaos. It gives legs to vision. It transforms possibility into power. It's spiritual armor, protecting your purpose from distractions and self-inflicted defeat. And once you experience the clarity it offers, motivation will feel like a cheap thrill compared to the raw purity of real purpose. This isn't only about success. It's about alignment, walking in your truth, earning peace through pressure. Every repetition you complete in the gym, every hour you pour into your purpose, every moment you resist the easy path, it's a prayer that says, I refuse to be ordinary. It's proof, without saying a word, that you came to conquer, not to coast, that you're a weapon refined every day. Discipline is not routine. It's ritual, a spiritual journey disguised as habit, a sacred fire hidden in your grind. And those who master it gain a kind of freedom most men will never touch. So now what? Will you close this and scroll back into smallness? Or will you rise and go to war with your inner weakness? The clock doesn't pause. Life doesn't care. God gave you breath today. Use it with intensity. Your discipline is the altar where your weaker self dies, and your strongest self is reborn. Don't waste this opportunity. Don't waste your suffering. One day lived in full discipline is more valuable than 1,000 days driven by fleeting motivation. Let that idea hammer in your brain each morning. Let it shove you forward when you want to quit. Let it haunt your comfort. This is not the path of the many. This is the road walked by the chosen few. And if this message resonates deep in your bones, then you were never meant to be ordinary. You were created to master yourself. And that mastery begins now, with a truth that can't be bent. Discipline over motivation. Every single time.